let me know when you guys can see this, right? For a lot of new people in the Discord, I strongly suggest that you go through this PowerPoint and really understand it to understand it, not to check off the item that you read something. There's a lot of good stuff, right? From the market auction theory, we've talked a lot about this, acceptance and rejection standpoints. How do the dealers kind of participate in this, or the locals? And you can imagine, guys, that there's so many variations of the dealer and how they place or how they participate in our markets, right? I would say 90% of the stuff that you guys know or what I know, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to how they operate. They make money, as you guys know, on the small transactions, right? And I don't know if any one of you has ever heard the term the dealer is too long or too short. Has anyone heard that?
No.
No, Shorty.
No, okay.
Heard it
Well,
like in the market, Mind Over Markets book a little bit.
yeah, they talk about it there, but most of the time, I mean, that happens a lot. So think about the scenario. Let's say we're in a bracket and we start trending up slowly. As we come up to a level, somebody's selling, let's say a long time person is selling, okay? If the long term selling, what does the dealer have to do?
Buy.
The dealer is, in this case, the buyer of that inventory, correct?
Yeah.
If the dealer is the buyer of inventory from this long time frame seller, okay, what happens if there's multiple long time frame sellers for this dealer?
He's got a lot of inventory he's got to get rid of.
He's got a lot of inventory that he's got to get rid of. So how do you resolve that? If you're a dealer, how do you resolve it?
You test the price higher and see if he can sell it higher, and if not, then he has to sell it lower.
That's correct. Or he could push his bid where?
Just
Oh.
in front of the seller.
You can lower the bid, right?
Lower the bid, yeah, either higher or lower.
Yeah, if he lowers the bid, then he will instigate. So when the price goes down, we're looking to do what with
To stop the
Stop the
selling.
selling.
to stop the selling, right?
Yes.
So if he lowers the bid and the other time frame participants come in and find something that's below value valuable, that's in the favor of a dealer. But if that level is broken, what does a dealer have to do then?
Stop.
Buy. Loss.
So he has to sell out the loss.
Okay.
So think about it. The dealer at one point, the dealer has to do what is being offered. If somebody's selling at the top on the axis on the tail of a market profile, the dealer
Yeah.
has to be the buyer, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because he's got to facilitate. That's right.
Then, I mean, if he's too long, then he can hedge, right? There's multiple ways to hedge, guys. I mean, I'm just assuming they're hedging within the one instrument. They could be long wicks, right? There's multiple ways to hedge it, right? That's why the options derivative was created. But in this case, for his inventory to be in balance, right? If his inventory is too long of imbalance, he's going to have to look to offload it. So let's say this guy, let's say Dean is a long-term seller and he offers to, let's say, sell 1,000 contract of ES at, let's say 5,000 just for purposes of math.
Mhm.
Okay, well, the dealer would have to buy that inventory. And what do you think his goal is as a dealer?
To get rid of it.
Well, he wants to get rid of it because if there's a buy order that's coming in from somebody else, he can sell that 1,000 contracts at 5,005. That's
And
good
make-
for him.
Yeah, and make himself a little bit, which is a lot.
That's a lot because all they do is they do volume, they do quantities, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when the dealers become net short, you will know, right? Because sometimes when you see those big spikes and the range extensions, it could be other time frame sellers, right, or buyers, but it could be the rebalancing of inventory by the dealers. Because in some cases they're too short or too long, and they have to rebalance to make sure that they're set. And that's when you sometimes see those V-shaped recoveries, and sometimes when you see a failed extension, right? When you have A and B set on market profile, and then you see, like, let's say C goes down, but it only has a single print. That's called a failed extension. And usually when failed extensions are set up, the move in opposite direction might start. Okay, because the selling was not aggressive. So now there's gonna cause the buying, and the dealers are gonna be able to start selling their inventory, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Everybody following so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yep.
curious that I know, back in the day, the market makers used to send stuff to the floor, so you would take 2 minutes to get a fill. So they'd only take the risk up to a certain level, it
Correct.
seemed. Has
Yep.
that's changed now? So
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
It drastically changed.
Okay.
Before in the pit, right? On the floor, you would have, you had a floor trader that was there for himself. I don't know if you guys know. You have floor traders that pay the fee, and they're floor traders for themselves. They don't have clients. Sometimes they have a commercial, sometimes they have a personal floor trader, right? Are you guys aware?
Okay.
Okay.
No,
So
I'm not.
if
Sure.
a commercial client comes in, do you think commercial client buys 5, 10 contracts?
Aren't they going through like Goldman Sachs or somebody, one of the
Well,
bigger
yeah,
guys?
of course. There's trader. They have Goldman Sachs has traders on the floor. Everybody, the big boys are there. And those
Yeah.
are CT2s, right? CT1s are your first ones.
But I mean, our trades are going through those guys, right? That type
Uh,
of thing?
yeah, usually they do. Depends who the broker is that's picking up, and then the speed that we are operating now. I don't even know how you would validate it, to be honest. Like, I mean, you would have to learn some hoops to figure out which broker picked up your trade,
Mm.
right? But usually you have CT1s, you have CT2s, right? That facilitate that type of trades, right? And then people measure, there's reports, right? There's a CT reports that come out at the end of the day to tell you what percentage was through CT2, what percentage of volume was CT1. But we won't get into that because it's fairly complex and most of you guys would not get any value out of it. Because for most of you guys and myself, you're trying to do two-sided activity, but then identifying when that two-sided activity is gone is what we can help one another with education. That way you're not caught on the wrong side of that trend day. And a lot of people suffer with the trend days, especially when you're in imbalance and you go into imbalance because the emotional doubt comes in and you're like, oh man, I think I should short it here. And then you short it and they break that level. That means, the buyers are stepping in. New buyers are coming in and they're taking out the sellers.
Yeah.
And the more they short, and that's what we kind of experienced, I would say, the past 4 or 5 days. We keep shorting and it keeps going up. Not necessarily all of us, right? But there's people in the market that keep doing it. And when the seller, when the short person or a lady is weak, meaning that their stop is close by, what do you think that does?
Takes out the stop.
It takes out the stops and you're buying to cover from that point. So the weaker the seller, the more momentum or the melt up you're going to have. And you're watching for this area to eventually stop where you see excess high, right? Where you see unfair's high. Have we seen any unfair highs lately? Past couple of days, I would say no, we haven't seen yet, right? So last time when we talked about market profile, and I'll cover a little bit of volume profile here, but I would say we have a lot of videos on volume profile and how to use it. This section here, and I'm not going to go into details of all of it, but this section here where we open applies to volume profile and market profile. All the principles that you guys know on the volume profile is applicable to market profile. What market profile introduces for us is to kind of give you the framing of the levels, right? The A period did B period ever crack above the A period? If it did, that means you're no longer framing down on between A and B. Did the C period go take out the highest B period? If it didn't, that means you're framing down, means the C period is making lower highs compared to the B period. Can you guys visualize that or no?
No. Can you show it, please?
No, sorry.
Okay,
Shorty.
let me go here. Let me turn on this. I'm gonna hide the candles. I don't really need them. All right. I will start here. All right, so where's our initial balance? Let's everybody kind of agree on that. This was on your test, right? So A period is here. And where's the highest B period?
4384
Would be here, correct?
POC. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
right
So
there.
this is your period, right? Now the C period, the C period, now watch where the C period is. Where's the first C that shows up?
Right,
The bottom.
right there
So,
at the bottom.
4372.
so the C period framed below the B period right here. Would you guys agree? We went, I don't know, why is this not, does anyone know why is this like squares, drawing squares for me and straight lines? Oh, maybe it
No.
is. Like it's not free form. You got, I don't know, maybe you guys can't feel it, but I feel like it's locking onto levels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
that, I
You'll
tried.
see.
Yeah, it was doing that for me earlier. Like, yeah,
Okay.
locking up
It's
the
like
level.
it's like it has snapped a grid or something like that going on.
Yeah, I just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, anyways, you see below the B period, we made a lower low with C period. So the C period made a lower low. This is the lowest of B period, correct? So
Mhm.
B period did not take out the A period. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then the
Right.
C period went below the B period low. That means we went lower low between B and C. C made a
Okay.
lower low. Now, did C make a higher high compared to the B period?
No.
The
No.
highest B is right here. I don't see any C's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you see the D period did not go below, the D period did not go below the C period,
The
correct?
C. Right.
Right.
Now that we
Or,
are making, I'm
or
trying.
above, for that matter.
If anyone can Google it, please. Driving. Why is it doing this? Like it's almost like it has some points that it's referencing.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you see the E period, right? It never went below the D period, right? And then the E, you see that it started auctioning, and what did it do?
Higher
it-
highs and higher
Kept-
lows.
Keep
It
going.
broke above the initial opening range. Remember, the 30 minutes is the
Mm.
opening range, and it went. So the E period basically broke the A period range, but the B went all the way up to here. You guys see that, right? The little
Oh.
black line is indicating your initial balance.
Mm.
Let me see if I can do this. This
Shorty.
right here is your initial balance.
Okay.
This little
Can you-
black line here. Let me make sure you guys.
Can you explain real quick the initial balance? I'm sorry, Shorty. I just want to make sure I get that.
Yep. Let's find that. Should be slide 40 something. 44. Initial balance is just 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern.
So the first hour. So it's sort of like the IBH and IBL.
That's exactly what that is.
Okay.
Initial balance high and initial balance low.
Okay.
So if you think about it, this is your initial balance low. This is your
Yeah.
IBAL. And this would be your IBH, initial balance high.
And the reason why you call it initial, it's because it started with the A at the bottom. If the A would have been at the top, then it would have been the initial balance would have started at the top, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where it start, where we open. We care about the first hour trading range date. Trading range, where within the first hour you're trading. You see that
Okay.
A stops right here,
Yeah.
and this is the A, and then you see the B is right here to the bottom.
So that's your initial balance from the A.
A
to
and B is your initial balance.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now you're able to tell, right, which one is actually, where are we framing up between these or down? And how's that different than when I look at this, right? If you go here for the 30 minutes, here, isn't this the same thing? So this would be your A, this is your B, this is your C,
Mhm.
right? D, E, F, J, H, and so on, right? The alphabet. And you're able to tell which way are you going based on the auction just using the letters, right? And I don't want you guys to kind of think this is rocket science. You're just replacing the price with the visual way of looking at it. Which way does it start and open, right? Now, when you think about it, when you have access high and access low, do we know who entered the market?
Long-term traders.
Okay, so the long-term traders enter the market. I would say if you go here, right, like this one here, that's long time frame traders entering the market. The price dropped to a level, and then look, they responded. They
Okay.
triggered a responsible, responsive by initiative and responsible buying here. I would say mainly, is it responsible or initiative here?
Initiative.
I think maybe
Responsible.
initiative selling and responsive buying.
There you go. So initially, it was probably initiative selling, and then
Yeah.
responsible buying got triggered.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're paying attention to this area because this is excess. That means other time frame buyers enter the market. And if it's true on the opposite side, let's say here, right, we have 3 single prints. This is where initiative sellers enter the market, right? And you see them potentially, driving the price down. We did. And then here, what happened here? Do we have any initiative?
I'm not sure if those are initiative coming in the middle, but actually they wouldn't be. That would have to be.
No.
This is just single prints, poor structure, poor auction in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But on the ends of the extremes, right? Do you have an idea if there's participation of long-term buyers or sellers right now?
No.
Okay. So one way that Peter and the boys defined this way back is to figure out the TPO count in here. This type of day, what would you say? If you look at the initial balance, you see here, A and B set the range, right? Let's try this again. A and B set the range. Which period sent the range lower?
C.
Yeah, the C period sent it lower, explored all the way to 44.19, and then they started reverting back. Okay. So now, how do I know right? So when it's trending, when you have access that's visible on single prints, unfair high, unfair low, whatever you want to call it, you know that there's different buy. But how can we tell if they're participating here? Anyone have a clue?
Yeah, I thought initiative buy or long-term buyers tend to step in when you are outside of the 2x IB and somewhat within that 2x IB range.
Yeah,
The
but
initial balance.
when it's a neutral day, when it's bracketed, you don't expect those ranges to be reached for that particular day.
Right, but they're okay, correct.
So
My understanding is that when they're outside of the initial balance, that is typically when the long-term buyers and sellers are entertaining it
correct.
because
That is
they're
correct.
so this has a lot of the day outside of that range.
Yeah, it has
On the bottom
extension to the low side, correct?
Yeah.
And then the value area has been set, and that includes majority of that access or extension that happened here, correct?
Yeah, so I would say long-term buyers were stepping in.
Okay, that's great. How else can you visualize this? You nailed it, Bean. I want to teach you something that can help you in the neutral day know what to expect potentially the next day. Okay. What do you guys
Shorty,
think
I have
is
a
happening?
question.
hmm
When I was reading with I know like on the last session you mentioned that the IB is normally set by short-term day traders. But when I was reading about the normal day, they talk about how other time frame comes into the market early. So I guess that part is confusing me. Is it the short term, or is it the long term, or is it a
So
mixture
in
of them?
a normal day, I would say 80% of the volume
80%
is short
of the
term.
volume
80% is short term,
is
because if there
short
was a
term.
long term other time frame participants, remember they come in quick and they have they can drive the price above those key levels. If the price fails to make those levels, lower lows or higher highs, depending on where we are, then the influence of other time frame buyers or sellers is pretty weak, right? They're maybe just happy trading along there and grabbing their position for the longer. And that's what I want to focus on today is when you have a neutral day, when you have a D-shaped day, and I built something for you guys so you can actually extrapolate what that means. Like with this, I put normal days, normal variation, normal trend day, double distribution trend day, and then neutral days. Like, what do you expect to see? And then who's in control? And you might ask, well, why is this important? Well, let me ask you this. If it's a trend day, would you trade that the same as if it was a bracketed day?
No,
No way.
Of course. What works in a trend day would not work in in a bracketed day. What works in a bracketed day definitely will not work in a trend day.
no.
So I left this here, and this is for you guys mainly to kind of visualize this and give you some pointers, right? Everything that's stated here doesn't mean it happens 99% of the time. Is this true 99% of the time? Probably not. It's a period of time that people looked at the data and provided the insight on what actually happens. And there's a lot more science to it. I would say there's a lot more math, a lot more variables and context of the charts. So don't take this, oh man, 85% set in IB, I'm gonna go all in at the bottom and buy the bottom. No, you can't do that, right?
Yeah,
You have to be familiar with the range, what's going on around it, right? And just like I was showing this type of day here, one trick that we can do is when you look at the TPO counts, is that you can count the number of TPOs below the fair price. Where's the fair price on this chart?
on the POC.
POC.
The fairest price is right here. Okay. Excuse me. So if you count the number of TPOs above and you count the number of TPOs below, it would tell you something. Roughly looking at this, where do you guys think the number of TPOs are? Which one has more?
When you count, are you
Bottom.
counting the length or are you counting the total
The total.
time?
The
Total
bottom.
number.
From you talking about from the POC up or from the POC down? Which one has more?
That's correct. And you don't count the POC itself because that's your
Right. I would say
Bottom.
probably I don't know. They looks kind of equal because the bottom's kind of bottom looks like it's got more, but then it's got some missing in the
Here,
middle.
let's go quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 5 times 6, that's 30. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4 times 12, that's 12. So 42, 45, 49, correct?
Yep.
So the
Yeah.
top has 49. You don't, why do I not count the singles?
Because those are unfair. They're single print. They're unfair value.
Unfinished auction.
This will not be unfinished auction in my world, but yeah, why not count the singles?
It's a long-term traders action.
Okay, keep going. Anyone else want to take a stab at it?
If we're talking about a single wick up, that could be split seconds versus 30 minutes for actual time. If you have two, you have at least 31 minutes. So the strength of it may be a lot weaker in the grand scope of time spent at a price.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
With single prints, you already know what the aggressiveness of it.
Just no volume.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm just asking to see if anyone has any other ideas.
Time because the price is not going to spend very much time there. It's a fake out.
Okay, what else? Anyone else?
I would say the time too, because it moved pretty fast.
What
Like
do what do single
it's
prints
clear.
indicate to you guys?
Single prints show the other time frame participant, whereas what we are trying to see is in that particular day, how where are the buyers and sellers that are in control, and with reference to where the TPO count is, you would find out where where is the heavy volume, not volume, where is the time spent with regards to buyers and sellers. So single prints anyways is aggression and long term, and that's why they are out of the context of when we count the TPOs.
That's exactly right. Because the single print tails are already accounted for. If there's more than one single print tail, it tells us that there's other time frame participation. If it was one single print tail, like in this case, it tells us that there's other time frame participation, but were they confident in their position?
No.
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 So that's why I
No.
don't count them. We know their
Right.
intention, therefore I don't want to count them.
Yeah.
Okay. Just looking on the bottom, I think this would be a double amount of TPO. So 1, 2, 3. So you have 5 times 6 here. Already you have 30 here. Right? 6 times 5 is 30. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So 35. Right here you have a lot. So think about this now. The number of TPOs that are below the fair price. And then, the value area is established higher than where we've been. What does that tell you?
Buyers in control.
The buyers are buying below.
The initial balance.
Okay. Remember, we talked about, you guys are tired of the peanut butter example, but let's go to the iPhone example. iPhone price is at 1200. The price drops here to
Mhm.
700. And price is staying there, right? But it's not going lower. Eventually, if there's a lot of participation, like we are seeing, there's a lot of time spent there, but we're not dropping lower. That means what? That we found opposite response. That we found the demand at one point that it's going to drive the price potentially higher. Does
Right.
that make sense?
And they can try to some like
The sellers got to the point to where the buyers stepped in to drive the price higher.
Yep, that's exactly it.
So they're dumping, and that's what's going to cause the price to come up. They're selling, and the buyers are stepping in, so that's what's going to cause the spike back up.
That's correct. So let's say the next day, this day here, what would have happened if we got single prints through here the next day?
Mm.
What if we open like we did, right? We opened within the area here, right? We opened the A period, I would say. I can't tell if we opened here. I don't see the A, the O anywhere. Let me see. Let me change this.
Then they're seeking new value.
Okay, so let's see. We opened right here. Where did we open compared to this day's value?
Within value and above the POC.
And that sentiment is
Slightly bullish.
okay.
Bullish.
So now think about when you analyze your day to day, what if, and you see here, there's something really important that happened here. I'll let you guys decipher that. What if the single prints came in here and they drove the price lower? That would be really, really bearish.
Bearish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if
Yep.
we didn't accept this value here, so far we open here and we are accepting this range here,
Right.
Mhm.
correct? But then you see how they did something here really, really interesting for the bears. Do you guys see what they did?
You talking about the single wick in the bottom there, saying they're rejecting and going back up over the POC?
I mentioned it briefly here. This is called extension failure.
Mm,
When you have an IB range set, initial balance, and you fail to extend lower, that leads to an explosion most of the times higher. You can at least
higher.
expect to go the opposite side.
Yeah, because it didn't have a follow through.
Do not have follow through. So when you look at this, let me see, I wrote it here. On the range extensions, right?
It's like a
Long-term
spring,
traders,
kind of.
exactly, pretty much a spring. Only after IB, blah, blah, blah. If we extend over IB, that would be a trend day. Happen on top or bottom, and look at the bottom piece. Failed range extension can be a single print, and typically you will have a range extension in the opposite direction. That's exactly what they did here.
Okay.
The TPO count told you in this, I would call it normal day, right?
But in
Yeah.
that situation, I'm sorry, in that situation, if you see it pop down and you're saying you're breaking back up into range, at what point would you have a confidence that you're going to run to the other side of the
So in this
IBH and break
scenario,
higher?
you would have a few things to consider. Only if I can go. This will be a key point for me.
The
If
POC, obviously.
the POC is here, and in B period you went below it, and then the C tried to go below, that tells you extension failed 2 times. The D was not framing down compared to C. What I was teaching you guys earlier. Did the D
Higher,
dip below
higher
C?
low. No.
Meaning it didn't make
The
a
D
lower
made a
low.
higher, it made a higher low. And
Okay.
then you see, obviously, the C period also held. So immediately, to me, knows, that this seemed to be a fail. They tried to do too much here. The market tried to do too much too soon. The market was too short. When the market's too short, they have to rebalance the inventory, right? So they got to look, the dealer, when you think about it, the dealer here took a lot of shorts. He kept buying from other time frame sellers, right? He bought. Now what does he have to do? Well, he dropped the bid.
You have to sell there.
He dropped the bid to 41.40, which we're aware about. And then
Yep.
they dropped it, and now they drove.
Yep.
And now whatever they got here, they're like, okay, well, here you go. Here you go. And it happens to be that we have gap ups. 2 of them. I would say maybe
So
even
they
3.
held it for that many days before they
No,
dumped
well,
it?
I wouldn't say that they held it, but if they were given this and they're aware of the 41.40 big level
Yeah, yeah.
sitting there and big buyers,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
not net selling here. Because if they were net selling at 41.40, that level would have been, we would be here by now.
Right. We would have kept going lower.
So they had to rebalance the inventory. So they rebalanced it, and now they're looking to sell, which happens to be the previous week's, I would say, value area highs extremes,
Value
right?
area high.
Does that make sense so far? But when you look at the range days, when you look at the normal trend days, like this guy where's the table? If you look at these days, right, 85% of the volume is set. Normal variations is that you have an extension up and you have you basically reset up a new balance. When you have a range extension, so if you look this look like to be a normal variation day, right? You have A and B, they're set. Then we broke it in a C period. We continued lower, right? And then if you look here, let's add close price. We closed below the open. We opened here and we closed here right outside the value area.
So
But we did.
that's divided between the long and the short term traders.
So the long-term sellers actually came in here aggressively. We are close to holding inside the value. And you see, we close right below the value. When you close right below or right above the values, that does not mean in this many cases, it doesn't take a lot of effort to get back inside the value.
Yeah, because it's close. Yeah.
If we closed, when it's a trend day, you need to close at the extreme of that move. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We needed to close a lot lower, I would say, here at the extreme of that move, and we didn't do that. Then
Right.
you have the TPO counts on this type of day that's indicating, hey, something is off. We have all this time being spent here, but we're not putting in, we didn't go a lower low. The next day, as soon as it didn't break some of these levels, you get an idea that, oh, this might be a bounce. And at the same time, I know I don't want to throw this for, especially for new people, you had the footprints that were indicating some other stuff here. Remember we said on one of the days, it did not look so convincing on a sell-off.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
And if it doesn't look so convincing on a sell-off, and you have, TPO count confirming some of the stuff, then it gets a little bit, hey, careful.
Mm.
Because people were shorting here like aggressively, right? But they were not making lower lows. So on the TPO count, I added a slide for you guys. Oh, right here. Let me kind of go over that. So TPO count health, this is mainly, do not use this in a trend days. Why not use in a trend days?
Because it's just going to continue the same direction. The time doesn't really give anything.
Exactly. You can tell if it's a trend day. How?
If it goes,
I'll be hedged into two.
Are the letters going to be framing down if you're trending up?
No.
no.
You're going to be making higher highs. So you're going to have letters framing up and going. The B is never going to go below the A, or C is never going to go below the B, but C is always going to be above the B high. D is going to be above this, so on. Can you guys visualize that?
Yeah, starting.
Okay. So question for you guys on this. You only count double prints, as we established that, right? You can't have extensions to use your TPO count. So you typically, if you're in a D shape, you should not have a lot of extensions. If you guys remember, 85% of the volume is going to be within the A and B. Okay.
Yeah.
POC is your fair price. You cross that line and you count up and down. Is this a strategy you can trade with? No, this is it to help you understand what's happening at that time in the market.
How much time the price spent.
Okay.
At
So
that,
do not use this. Oh man, 85 TPO here. I'm going all in, jumping into the ocean with both feet, and I'm going. That's not what it means. You have to look at the context. Are we at the like 4140 level? Okay, you are. You're at a major support. We're getting there. 2 weeks back, we said we should be closing down our shorts from SPY that we had for December as we approach that 4140. You guys recall that? I even mentioned it in your Discord chat. I'm closing my December puts.
Yeah.
And I just started trimming, and then I had one left and I closed it. But that's because if you saw the market develop, you're coming to a level that's really, really important. And then if you see something like this on a day that you're looking like consolidating, it's telling you, hey, there's a little bit of action happening. We're not going lower and a lot of time is being spent here. There's a high chance that we are being bought up below the value, below the fair price. And that's how you can use the TPO count. So the question that I have for you is, would the other time frame buyer interact with the long-term seller in this case here?
I'm gonna say yes.
Are you saying a long-term seller and a long-term buyer interacting?
Would they interact here in this profile right now?
Don't they interact with the local or dealer?
That's
I would
correct.
say no. They don't.
They don't interact. So
Okay.
Eric, you mentioned something that it's really important for you guys to understand.
Okay.
You wanna try to explain it, Erica?
Like you mentioned earlier, the role of the local is just to make a little bit on a lot. So even in that case, they're selling, but that the dealer will eventually, or the dealer is buying and then eventually we'll sell it for a higher price, for a little bit higher price.
Okay. Okay. So how can you put that in terms of understanding long-term firm buyers? If the other time frame buyer buys from the local, another time frame seller typically sells to a local, where could the imbalance happen? Where can a local have an imbalance?
When the other time frame buyer is buying or the seller is selling. It's essentially when they're pushing it out of balance to imbalance that would be causing it for the.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
Okay, that's exactly it. Okay. And in the Mind Over Markets, and even in the audiobooks, he actually gives same examples. So think about, I think it goes something about the football tickets or tennis tickets. I'm not sure which sport he was in. Imagine you're a scalper and you're trying to buy, you're trying to flip tickets. And that happens. Let's say a Falcons game here. When I go there, there's a lot of them. Those people buy tickets online or get it from somewhere, and let's say they buy tickets in advance. Let's say the Falcons Super Bowl that we had with Patriots. Okay. Well, they bought the tickets, let's say, for $1,000 a pop. What do you think the scalpers before the game?
$2,000 or more.
Well, they're going to try to make $1, right? They're going to try to sell it, let's say $1,200, $1,300, depending how many tickets they got, right? But let's say right before the game, their quarterback and their running back are injured. They get blown ACLs. What are the chances that you're going to sell those more than 1,000?
Not very,
Good
no,
chance.
not good at all.
Okay.
You're gonna have to
So
lower the price.
you will not have other time frame people buying. You will not have even two-sided activity. If it was two-sided activity, you would not be even selling them.
I
You're
got
looking
you.
to buy it in advance so you can sell a little bit more.
Yeah.
So what would this person as a scalper have to do at some point? Let's say the game's 8:30. Right now it's 8 o'clock.
You have to lower the price.
Sell them at a loss.
What are the odds that he's gonna get $1,000 a ticket?
Not
Not
very good.
good.
Fairly
Yeah.
slim unless they're sold out.
He
Well,
might have
exactly.
to sell it. He might have to sell it to break even
Or take a loss.
or take a loss. Yeah.
Yeah. And TPO, basically what this measures is the imbalance, right? Where are we in terms of other time frame participants, right? So if there's a lot of time being spent here, maybe if somebody's selling, who's buying? Would there be other time frame sellers selling here?
I don't know.
Anyone?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, what's fair to a long-term trader here, right, could also be fair for them to buy here, don't you think? A long-term trader?
Yeah,
Does he really
because they're
care if
looking for
these?
a big enough move.
They're looking for the advantage, fair value.
Yeah. So if somebody's buying long-term buyer is buying here, who's he buying it from? Is he buying it here from a long-term seller?
No.
No,
No,
He's
the
buying it
middleman
from the
or
low.
retail. Yeah.
the
So
short
if
term
the
seller.
local is selling their inventory, now think if the local is selling their inventory here because somebody's buying, what is local have to gonna do soon if his inventory is low?
Lower the price or
Think carefully. Do not just throw it out. Think before you.
Buy
I'm
more.
You have to
okay,
rebalance.
Yeah. If
gonna
my
have to
inventory is low, I want to sell it higher.
okay. So But remember, you're a local, you have to do what others do. So where's most
Mm.
likely that the local will have his inventory rebalanced?
At the POC?
That would be one level. We're gonna find that level based on your position, based on where we get the opposing, whether we get access high somewhere.
So you start testing to see where.
It's when other time frame seller comes in and he starts selling, who has to start buying?
The
Local.
local.
The local. The local is gonna have to rebalance their inventory when other time frame sellers step in.
Mm,
Okay. This is more about inventory rebalancing and balancing from the CTAs or locals or dealers than anything else, right? Because when they run out of to sell, well, the price is gonna go higher, right? Hey, I just don't have any more to sell to you. Okay, well, now I have to look for what? I have to look for inventory. And let's say Bean is like, okay, well, I can sell to you here at 41.40. And then Cuban comes in and is like, man, I have a lot, but I can't do 41.40. I can do like 41.80. So
so
what do
he
you,
has to start
these
buying
buy?
higher.
So these people are start competing on prices and they're gonna go higher
Gotcha.
until somebody has more inventory. They're like, okay, well, I can sell you a lot here at 40, let's say 4,400. I have a lot. Well, the local again has to start buying at this price. And the local turns around and starts to execute this as quickly as possible as he can for small profits, unless he's caught, right? Too long at the top, then he has to manage it. And if he's considered too short, then he has to manage that as well from the inventory perspective. And in bracketed days and the trend days or normal D shapes, we can use TPO counts to give you an idea, right? Who was in control? What was the participation of other time frame? In this case, I would say that TPO was positive, meaning that there's a high chance if you break this POC that you will run.
Mm,
Okay, does that make sense? This is not an easiest topic because you'll have to apply it and you'll have to test it.
yeah, it's not that easy, but it's
Okay, a lot of you guys failed on a quiz on this question. Price can be above, within, below.
yeah.
Selling above is what?
Responsive.
Okay, and if at the same level, you initiate new buyers. What does that mean?
The long term steps in when you're outside of value because it's more
Looking for
valuable
new
than edge.
value.
It's a better value basically.
In the long term of scheme, in a longer picture, he sees value. What you think on a day to day, he's going to have value for the long picture. So therefore, he initiates the buying. I
Yeah.
would say buying above value is typically not expected, right? How many of you want to give me $2,000 for iPhone 12?
Right. Right.
You would only do that if Apple was to say we're done with making phones. Or I don't know if you guys are into lawnmowers, but like Honda is no longer going to make 4-cycle engines, meaning small engines are not going to be made by Honda, right? Well, what do you think the demand is for used Honda lawnmowers right now in the market? They make really good lawnmowers. Would the demand be low
High
for used
demand.
Hondas or high?
High.
High demand.
Yeah, it's going to be a high demand. So you can expect to pay unexpectedly high prices,
Yeah.
right? Like my father-in-law, I told you guys, he does the crazy stuff with lawnmowers, and he's like, hey man, I have one that I basically use for mulching, and I have the real mower for cutting like fine grass. And he's like, I'll give you a Toro. I was like, you're crazy. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? I don't want the Toro for the Honda. I like the Honda. He's like, oh, but they're discontinued. Like he's trying to play me. And I'm like, sure, I'll test your lawnmower. And I tested it, and I was like, hey man, I appreciate the offer, but I'll keep this Honda, because in the longer term, because they're not going to have a supply of it anymore, new supply, that means the old supply is going to carry a lot more value. So of course, I'm not going to, I
It's
was like,
much
sure,
better quality.
yeah, I'm not going to give you this at this price. I'll give it to you at 500, even though brand new one's 450. But you go ahead and find a new one.
Yeah, yeah.
So buying above value is really unexpected, right? The same thing is about selling below the value. It's not expected unless you know a piece of information that's going to drive your value long-term change,
And
perception.
that could be what, news or
That's correct, right?
gotcha.
So hopefully, does this ring a bell with most of you now, the slide?
Yeah.
Is anyone confused? Where does the two-sided activity happen in this chart?
Is it above and below
Above and
value?
below.
Careful how you answer. Long-term
I don't-
traders looks for what?
Fair price.
Fair
Unfair,
price.
Mm,
unfair
Advantage price.
price. Yeah.
You look for
Advantage
value.
price.
Advantage fair
They look
price.
for favorable price.
Right.
A short-term trader is part of the two-sided activity, and they trade in between access high and access low.
Yeah, he's
So
looking
they
for
trade,
fair value
they look
within.
for fair price.
Fair
So
price
they're usually trading within value. And I
within,
mentioned
yeah.
last time, what's another reason why a short-term trader should trade within the value? Being you answered the last time, so.
Is it because of the time? Because of the intraday trading?
That's one of them.
We control 80% of the
Okay, what else? Where's
set
most of
the
the
IB.
liquidity?
In the middle.
Sorry, I had to cough. If most of the activity is within the value area, that's where liquidity is going to be. What are the chances of you not getting filled at a good, remember, as a short-term trader, your entry really matters and your exit really matters. For a long-term trader, do you think the spot entry matters?
Not
no.
that big of a deal.
Guys, it's not big of a deal. When a long-term trader, he doesn't care if it's 56 and a quarter or 46 and a quarter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For us, 10 points entry matters. So if you're trading below value areas, what are the odds that you're going to have slippage on your market entry? Slippage is when the spread gets wide. Chances are really high because it's a low volume area.
Yeah.
68% of the volume is within the value. It's right here. It's within the value. So we have an advantage to trade between value, not necessarily outside, because we don't have the ability to put in an order that drives a single print.
So meaning within value would be a D shape.
Well, no, value just means 68% of the volume. I wouldn't say the
Okay.
value is D-shaped, not
Okay.
necessarily, right? Okay. So on this, you guys should be able to visualize this. A normal day, how would you expect to look, right? No range extension, so you should be able to see this and somewhat visualize it with letters, without it, just like a volume profile. Most likely it looks like a perfect D shape, maybe a small spike, but not really. I would say this is very important to know. Why is this important? Is because remember, if it has a wide balance, the odds of us breaking that balance is really low. When you have trend days, the balance is not going to be as wide, meaning initial balance. And a poor balance or poor initial balance means what in terms of facilitation of a trade? Is it good or bad?
Bad.
It is bad. Imagine you go to an auction and the auctioneer offers, it starts from 5 to 10. I mean, how many participants is he gonna have in that auction? Okay, let me give you a scenario,
Less.
since you guys are not following. I don't think you guys, I'm offering $20 bill auction, the price starting in 1995. Who wants to bid?
Nobody, not many.
I split discount.
I
There's not much room for us to auction in between. If the range is tight, that means it really does not have room to bring in other buyers and sellers,
Mm.
right? If I start an auction on something, let's say a $20 bill from 10 cents, well, we can have a lot of participation where somebody might offer right out of the gate $5,
Yeah.
right? So you can have a larger participation, and the auction would be healthier looking because you would fill up, if you imagine volume and price and time and price would fill up random spots. But if the range is tight, like 1995 to 25 cents, what are
Yeah.
the chances I'm going to get multiple offers?
No, not many.
Okay, so when you see a low range IB, that's usually an indication of not a proper facilitation of the auction, and most likely that auction is going to tip over.
Yeah, it's gonna cause an imbalance and run.
On a normal variation day, I would say the range extensions happen rather quickly in a day. Compared to the extended typical day, when do the extended typical days happen?
Towards the end.
After lunch type. Yeah.
Well, usually they happen in the late periods. I would say the last two periods happen. If it happens in the last period, end period, what would that mean?
Like,
And validate it.
That's called a spike. It means it cannot be validated because there's not another period after that to say, to erase that spike. If next day we erase that spike or we open below that spike on a spike up, let's say we spiked up and we close open below it, what does that tell you?
They had
Wasn't
corrected
It
it.
wasn't
That
validated.
that spike was not validated. It's a fake spike. So the spike higher is being invalidated. If we open higher than that spike and we continue, just like let's say the past 3 days where we had the gap ups, right? So you have these little gaps here, right? And you see here, you have the end period here, right? Basically spiking here in this period, but then brought back in price, open, and we close way above the value. So in this case, is price chasing value or is value chasing price?
But
Value's chasing price.
value's
It's
chasing
not
price.
within the value range.
Exactly. Value is chasing the price. And then when you think about this, right? If the value is chasing price, when the value catches up with price, what happens?
Then you're in value or you're in balance.
Okay, so let's talk about here. You opened and you closed within the value. Here, you opened and you closed outside the value. You opened, but you closed inside the value. So is
Mhm.
there a difference here that's happening between
Yeah.
so what's
Yeah.
happening?
You're in you appear that you're in balance now.
That's correct.
Potentially, depending upon how the next day is.
Okay, so now let's apply what we know, right? So far, I would say, obviously gaps are gonna play a role, right? And I hate playing gap ups or gap downs just because they're difficult. But now you're seeing that this short cover rally or this other time frame buyers that came in because we were in balance here for a while, right? I would say when we approached that level here, this was your range high here, and this was your range low, correct? And then
Yep.
basically we are aware of this because we charted it 3 days. Remember, we had the 3-day balance and
Yep.
we talked about this level. It was actually 4201 that we were after, and there's a reason for that. Does anyone recall what was the reason for 4201?
The
Erica, don't answer.
3-year POC.
4201.
Oh, 4201. Okay.
Wasn't it 3-day POC?
I'm giving you clues by zooming in.
Single prints in there.
They
Now it's hoping you don't answer, CK.
they were
Sorry.
Single prints that came in here that I mentioned earlier as well, right? We never came back to test these single prints. The 4201 was very important because that's where the single prints were. Is this initiative sellers or initiative buyers coming in here?
Sellers.
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 It's initiative sellers that came in and that, they broke through this value area low, a range low, which was a poor low. We broke lower and we created here, you guys see that we created unfair low,
Mhm.
right? Then once we were able to pop over this level, that really signified, and I mentioned this level in every one of my notes, that this is the level. If we pop over, you want to be careful shorting because we can have a massive run. I even said on NQ when Dumpster said it would take something special to get that, and we did that in a day.
Now those gap ups, don't we have to come back at some point and
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's just a rule, right?
okay.
So let me give you something here to think about. So when I write notes, I don't write to confuse you. I write because that's what I know. What does it say here? Hold 90 and look auction above 42 on, which was last 30 single prints. And our ultimate target was 4260 for that week. And we tapped 4264. You guys remember that?
Mm,
Okay. This was our target here. It was 4262 was our target. And I think we hit 66. Sorry, maybe somewhere around there. Okay, we hit 64.75. Actually, we had 64.75 because that was a VPOC on a weekly. Okay. Does that make sense why we identified the single prints? Because this is where the bearishness came. This is where the initiative sellers came. If you're able to regain those initiative sellers, then you're going to stuff them. Those initiative sellers that came in late are now going to start to buy to cover eventually. And who do they have to buy it from? The locals, guys. I'm trying to get you the picture that the long-term seller here is not going to be buying from a long-term buyer and seller are not going to be interacting. The local here is basically setting up his inventory. So now when we go higher, I mentioned where we opened versus where we closed. The auction is it slowing down or picking up now?
Slowing down.
It's slowing down, but not excessively yet. Tomorrow we find out.
yeah.
Because right now we opened, we closed, we opened. Ooh. How come you didn't close above the value area high like you did the 2 times?
Mm,
They're in
You
balance.
opened, you closed, you opened, you closed, you opened, you closed, you opened, but you closed below the POC inside the value. This is their sign to say, hey, we're gonna slow down a little bit.
yeah.
So
That's,
what's happening behind the closed doors with the locals is what? Oh, Erica, don't answer.
The market makers are overstocked. They need to get back to balance. They need to distribute their stuff to see
So
if they'll
are locals
continue
buying
up
or selling here?
selling.
selling.
No, wait, they bought. There were. Let's see.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
If the buyers are buying, then they're selling.
Okay, well,
There
think
have to
about this
be.
price action. So if somebody says no value above, what do you think this person did?
It's selling.
Okay, so there was some selling here. So who has to start buying here?
Oh, the locals were
local.
selling there, or the market makers are selling there because they collected lower.
The locals start buying.
The locals are buying. Okay, the long-term buyers were buying here while the
Mhm.
locals were doing what?
Selling.
They
Selling.
were selling and they're running out of inventory. But
Inventory.
now when
Right.
you go up, right? And let's consider that this range
Yeah.
here has been persistent before.
Mhm.
So a long-term seller meets a local buyer.
Like, going
Now,
up, you want to stop the buying.
remember, the local here probably was not a lot long here because all these sellers kept selling.
Mm,
So now think about the picture. The local buy, and then comes the moment, oh shit, let me drop the bid and let's get more people to take the inventory off my hands, right?
mm,
And then it's like, oh shit, more selling, and this guy's like, okay, well, let me take a loss, maybe, right? I don't know how they were positioned heavily or not. They came in here, and then long-term buyers came and they're like, oh, thank God, right? Because the long-term buyer wants to buy and the local wants to do what? He had all this long inventory, LI for long inventory. What does local want to do here?
So
He's gonna sell everything he can so he can minimize his losses.
yeah.
Because now these people are gonna do what at this level?
sell if they're still have some.
If they have inventory, they're gonna protect their position.
Yeah.
Their goal right now is to sell. So tomorrow, what I expect and what I'm really focused on is what? Are we gapping up over this level? If we gap over this level,
Then we're gonna
Wow.
if we gap over this level by mid-December, we're gonna be at 46.35 or sooner.
we gap over that level. That's change of character.
By end of the year, we should be higher than this if they do this. This level, like in the next couple of days, is gonna be crucial.
Yeah.
It's the make or break of the market.
Yeah.
If we react here and we get a position to do what? To stop what?
Short.
Stop the buying.
Stop the buying, then we know we got the opposite reaction. Does it mean if we get it instantly that it means that the bears are in control?
No.
No.
What needs to
Really?
happen to show the auction stalled and the bears are in control?
They
I
need
think-
to break,
Break and retest.
break the low.
Let's look at it. Is the market right now, when you
So
look
we
at
have
this,
lower highs and lower lows is
we are
continuing.
making higher highs. What we need to see is that we need to see
Right.
the low broken down. We need lower
Yeah.
lows to be put in.
Yeah.
So that would
We-
tell us
Yeah.
you're in control. The bears are taking control. Because now if
Yeah.
you look at it daily, higher highs. If you look at the weeklies, what? Higher highs.
Yeah.
Correct. So now we need, right? They need, obviously, this is far. I mean, the low of this weekly obviously is at 41.40, right? The level that we had.
Yeah.
So that's a big level to go. And then when you look at the structures, right? And that's where we're gonna go. We're gonna identify these, right? As we always do. If you go on the RTH sessions right now and you identify the structures, they would probably be really, really poor. So here's your weekly structure on TPO.
Mm,
Right? There's a lot of fixing to be happening here, right?
yeah.
So the way I would play it tomorrow, because I can't say, if we break this low here, does it mean that the day is over for the bulls? Not
No,
necessarily.
if you get you get a retest
Could
quite a bit down
get
because you
back
get a lot.
and get back
there.
up?
If I draw this, then I'll know where the buyers were in terms of volume. Time is great, but I need volume to confirm,
Mhm.
correct? So
Yeah.
if that's the case, well, what happens potentially at this level is going to be fairly important. I would probably highlight something like this.
Could get a bounce from there.
Yeah, you most likely catch a bounce here. Previous day high and a nice volume node here.
Yep.
So you kept, but if you erase this level, then things get a little squirrely, right? They get a little ugly fast.
But then you also have the POC from the prior week.
There's going to
That
be a lot.
could be a bounce there.
I think this would be my, right here, would be my level to consider some longs.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's skeptical level, why I don't like the level is why.
What level you don't like?
I'd like to buy here, but I'm not gonna be heavy position here on the long side. If we come back here, there's gonna be a bounce here, but I won't be heavy on this bounce. Why?
You don't have a lot of volume there.
Yeah,
Because your POC is actually lower, much lower.
Would I had a
low
lot
That-
more
volume at the bottom.
if we did this and then did that, wouldn't that be better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then I would know we would have what here in terms of
Or
volume profile. You would have support. You would have a high volume node sitting
Yeah.
there. So if you come back, sure, I'll take you long.
Yeah.
But
that's a hell of a drop to go all the way down to there.
Then you know they're serious.
yeah, but that's why I say it. I'm gonna trust it, but I'm not gonna trust it that much because you do not have a lot of volume there.
Mm.
You gapped it up yourself. So now you're gonna be most likely coming back here with the VPOC on a weekly being, I would say here.
Yeah.
All the way on the bottom. And I listened to the tapes last night from Peter. Do you know what the actual name is for this shelf right here?
Mm-mm.
Does anyone know?
Isn't that a ledge?
Yeah, that's a ledge. Yeah, it's called a ledge, right? This is called the ledge here by Peter and the crew. Okay, so now
Hey, Shorty,
Mhm.
sorry, I have a question. Can I on the TPO count?
Sure. Let me go back.
So that's more of a subjective thing because
Very
if
subjective.
we aggregate the tick size, right, from 5 to 10 to 2, that varies. Essentially, if the TPO count aggregation is left to 1, then in that case, you will have a different picture than what you see from a
That's
TPO
correct.
count 5 perspective, right?
That's correct.
So then that subjectivity, I know there is no holy grail, there is no 100%, but then what is the right way of looking at it? Because two different aggregations will give you two different perspective of the market at all. One will give you single prints at the top, other will say, yeah, no, nothing, it's not there.
Exactly. You bring up the points that everybody brings up in every seminar if you ever attended any of these. Because if I aggregate the tick size to 2 or 4 or 5, it changes the perceptions.
But in general, aren't you going to get
In
a
general,
ratio similar
that's
to
very
what you're
close.
expecting?
That's correct. In when you generalize that or you normalize it, if you change size for each one and you add up the TPO counts, go from 1 to 15, count the TPOs and see if your thesis stays, most likely will stay CK.
Most likely you'll be able to
Meaning
know
the
what.
TPO count is gonna match out of those 15 that you changed in favor of the one, like this case, it would be 85, 55 or whatever.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
The average would be in your favor. Because I mean, if I combine tick size between, let's say, these two, if I increase it, it just means that there's going to be a little bit more elongated there. So
True, and
I
probably
agree.
I shouldn't have used TPO count as the base. Maybe I should have used single print as
Well, single print
our-
changes. Yeah, single print
Correct.
changes because, and if you want to see a single print, you really want to see it on the lowest level possible so you know where to enter. Right? If you're increasing the tick size, you might not see it. It might be a poor high all the time.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
Yeah, no, you want when I look at it, right, and you guys see me, unfortunately, changing them a lot sometimes, right? I go from 15 now to like I like 10. That's why I established this. I like looking these at 10, and that's my preference. Some people like at 6, but then look at this. When I look at 6, I have to designate a whole screen for myself to see the profile.
I noticed that you have to really
And
expand to look at the letters.
on 6, we have a single, right? This is a poor high. On, let's change this to my typical. On the weekly, I go 15. What changed? Is it a single?
Yeah.
Still a single, right? Predominantly, I would say it's going to match to what you see, but you bring up a valid point, right? If you're seeking perfection in the market, you're not going to last long.
Mm.
That's what I would advise.
Yeah.
Okay. So now if you guys look, let me just kind of
A
go
lot of
and
information.
it is, but if you read any books, if you talk to any professional traders, do you really think, like even myself, do you really think I stopped learning about this shit?
Yeah, yeah. No. I get you. I'm just saying it's
Like this is a continuous
yeah,
thing, guys, because the market evolves, market changes. Did I adapt when they added SPX0DT? I told you guys immediately, as soon as they do that, they're gonna take me out.
yeah.
And I trade them for fun now. I used to trade, you guys know how much did I trade SPX before they added 0DT?
Yeah, a lot.
Full
Years.
time.
That was
That's
our
all
butter.
that's all I did, but they changed the game and the game got rigged to their standards. The probability shifted in their hands.
So now you could only trade it at the end of the day.
Well, I trade it when I see when I see an advantage, when I see that there's a
Gotcha.
key level or it's underpriced, I will come and, play that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So now moving towards, market analyzing, what do we need to break in terms of seeing the balance broken is here, right? If you guys look, this is the level that we need to auction higher in order to consider the previous week's area, right? This is, I would say, probably more than 2 weeks. I would say it's 3 weeks, but 4 weeks balance, right? So you're entering this 4 week balance and you're on top of it and you have a little bit of POCs here. So if you think about it, you had this week from, what is it, Monday, October 9th, you have this little area that I would keep an eye on and look how well that worked.
Yeah.
I'm just grabbing an equal distribution around the POC as I've done since I've traded volume profile. And look, we came back here and they did not like it. If you turn on the PVP, let's say there's PVP. I'll change this to a weekly, turn on. Here's your PVP. We're just not gonna extend these values. We're gonna hide TPO. And what is that? Same thing. On RTH session, they're gonna be much more closer than extended
No
hours.
pasa.
Okay. So now if you guys look, if we look at the consolidated 2 weeks, look where we came. We just, we said call it a ledge. I didn't have a proper name in my brain for some reason. I always called it, when it falls off like a gap protection or something. You can call it a ledge. They came in right to it. And then, cumulatively 4403 is a big level for them. Okay. So I would expect us to honestly auction here, maybe hit this VPOC, right? I believe this is going to be a VPOC anyways on all levels, RTH or not. Let's see. Yep. So we have a weekly VPOC here. I don't know if you guys have it, but this would be a level to watch. Is there a chance that we can auction higher than this level?
Yep.
Yep. But I would make sure that you guys have this level here, 4411. But just make sure you have it.
I mean, this is just my bias here, but I mean, it seems to me, based on the pattern of the market, the way it's been going, if we're going to short, I would want to short at the break of up there, not wait for it to get all the way down to where you're talking about taking a short.
No, if you're gonna short it, you won't here, but we need to see weakness here.
Right. You want to see it pop above, then fail
Oh yeah,
to
that's
hold.
my ideal, is that I want you to go above 4411 and then give me this. And then
Yeah.
we take something like this level, and this will be the
Oh, so
play.
you take the short down to the long. I see. Okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, I
My
got you.
first exit would be on this level right here, and my second level, if I wouldn't be interested in shorting anywhere close to this level. Here, can you short in between here, but just pay attention to the volume nodes. They pick up, so they can definitely play you a little bit, where you go here and they bounce, they catch you. But this here is a much easier short, and this would be a longer period short than intraday short, if that makes sense, right? If we see this tomorrow, then we know the participation here of other people, time frame sellers, might be coming back. If they gap over it, let's say they gap over, and I don't know, right? If they gap over this, then this, drives this probably to some new levels here. I would have 4512, I believe that was, or 4500 weekly VPOC. I think we have another one there at 4512. Maybe 4512 is the consolidated. leveled up top. I'm pretty sure I have 45.12 in my head somewhere. So 45.27. I want to see what happens when I add this. Okay, maybe 45.14. Well, I'm on also. Okay, this level is the one I'm after. If they gap over this, this is the range that we're watching for. What? Target, if you're long, to get out, and I'll also be considering some long dated puts here. If that fails, if they're able to, let's say, crack above these value area highs, like talk about 45.42, then I'm out. I would have to close my SPY puts for a loss. Does that make sense? But if I catch this from here, I would be targeting the lows right here, because at the lows, there was a finished or unfinished business.
Very poor low put there.
Oh, very poor low,
21,
man.
20.
Yep. So at the poor lows, eventually they have to be revisited, right? So now we're
Poor
definitely
low
watching
and
this.
the entire run up with low volume, with poor structure. Amazing.
That is correct. And remember, price plus time plus volume
Value. Yeah.
equals
Value.
value. So if they're not able to establish that, then it becomes a problem. And just looking at this level here that we mentioned earlier, you see that this is the last ad for them as they went up. And that's the area that we mentioned earlier, potentially a long bounce would be here. Okay. So now we did the weekly analysis, right? You see that we're in the range here on the volume profile as well as the TPO. So if I go to TPO here, I'll look, and this is a huge level, right? I mean, we're inside the range now, right? You're inside the previous 4-week balance, so we got to crack above it, right? If they lose this level here, I would say, let's find this. Let's say they lose this level somewhere around here. 43.24. Could you short this if you wanted to 4,300? Yeah, there's a chance. I would be careful of this demand that's hidden here. I'd be aware of this because it's a previous week value area high and they could bounce from here. So this would be the first exit if you're shorting below this. Then the final exit, you want to be closer to this level. I think there's a lot of speakers this week, right? They're off of the block, so they can spook the market really, really fast. One sentence from JPOW can push it higher. All of those speakers, then what they say can spook the market. Now, I would say if you break this level, most likely you're going to hit 42.63, but I would take some profits here because another tweet could come out and send it opposite. So I say take your profits this week. I know you can have, if you're playing smaller size, let's say we go above and fail, play one NQ or one ES or MES or MNQs, and you could drive this all the way down, right, with proper stop in between, right, where it doesn't go against you. But know the levels, and a lot of speakers will spook this market, I would say, this week. Ultimately, we're watching for this level here because this is our previous week VPOC. So if they're able to crack some of these levels right here, let's just enable this. Okay, if they're able to break this level, which happens to be in this case also the POC here, like right now, the way I'm looking at it, let's go 1 hour. So if they're able to crack below this, then we can anticipate each one of these volume nodes to come down and hit. Okay, I would expect a significant bounce here to happen, but there was not a lot of volume. It was more of a gap when they did their magic, right? On the dailies, I think we covered it, but let's just make sure. And go to regular. When you guys look at the dailies here, you do have a poor high and you have a poor low. And you have a slowing auction 100%. I think we can all make that conclusion, right? So you have a slowing auction. If you lose this value area low, let's say we open inside and then you break it and give you a small retest, that would be a good short. I would definitely watch that. Right? And here's your value area low on volume profile. So it's somewhere around 43.70. And that was a big level, if you guys remember, on trading. Once they cracked that, they didn't really look back too much. Okay. Let's see. This would be your value area high. And I'm on. Funny where they
Are you
close.
saying if we open up tonight at Sunday, if we open up below the value area and we touch the value area, you would take a short there?
Yeah, I would short it all the way down to this level.
I mean, overnight, I'm talking.
Yeah, overnight.
Or, okay.
It just depends where we open, right? Because that could, if they dance around here, people would most likely, when we open, be like, oh man, high chance we break low of the day, but they would probably not account for this node that pretty much generated this run. All of this was because of this generation here, and then accumulation and pop. So this would be a good long for me to test. I'd look for a long inside that here. Okay. So this is just the 50% of the range that we had, right? And if you look at the on RTH, this is going to be much smaller. It's going to print probably somewhere higher towards here where we bounced. Extended, this is the halfback. So if you lose the halfback here, it almost looks like a gap down. Most likely you fill this. Okay. So if they want to continue, right, they're probably going to crack. I would expect them to set some traps tomorrow, right? Because it would make sense. You have a poor high, poor low, you range in between, right? If we open below and then we reclaim this 43.70 right here, what are the chances that we're going to run higher to the highs or potentially VPOC? I would say very high. So that's what I would watch tomorrow as well. If you drop, let's say tonight you drop to these levels, then you regain it, then you're watching for this, and then for next level here. Where we open tomorrow cash, 9:30 is going to be super important. Okay. And this 4-week balance that we're in, 44.25 is, I would say major level for continuation higher. Does that make sense? And then the 40, what was it, 42.12 or whatever this was here. I think it was 12. Yeah. This was our previous low, but honestly, it should have been somewhere around 44. So. Any questions on this? The plan? The most important is the open, how we open for me tomorrow, right? If we're able to hold, let's say this value tomorrow and we dip and regain it, I'm going to be all in that we can potentially run higher. If I see us struggling tomorrow, right? If I see that we are not able to reclaim the POC, right? We are staying below it here, and then we crack this and really no attempt to break in. We come back. Might not be a bad idea to short this, depending on how we got there during the cash session. If we quickly spike and we see single prints coming in, it's going to indicate that we're most likely not done with the short cover rally or buyers, and we might push higher. Until we break this range right here, I don't see us being aggressively higher. I think these sellers from this range here are going to come in. Okay, and I don't think you guys want to be the first ones triggering the discovery at this price for the longs. You guys are more than welcome to, but I was just cautious that your reward here is not, I would say, not to the upside right now. Okay. If we basically break this, is there a room that we are gonna, push much higher? Yeah, of course. I'll probably target, we break 44.25. I'll probably target somewhere. Let me look at I'm looking at these single prints. You could probably target this node here, right? But it's probably gonna be around, 45 to 51. You're gonna be targeting this. We're gonna extend that bad boy to the right. And then, if they crack that, then you're expecting this at least to go 44.60. And then you have, I would say, the ranges get a little tighter here. So you have this level, and then above that, most likely you're hitting that weekly V pocket 4,500. I think they can catch enough momentum if they break this to hit this next week. If they break 44.25. Okay. Any questions? Yay, nay? Everybody understand or?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. I will do NQ tonight along with I'm gonna run the scan on the stocks, right? I promise we will do that, and I need to do it for myself just to see if I have stuff that I need to get rid of in my long-term portfolio, because I did add some stuff lately. Just gonna have to rebalance it a little bit in terms of cash and the exposure to the market.
Shorty.
So, mhm.
So if you see that we break over 44.10, 44.11, we go on top, break on top, and then fall back in,
That's bearish.
that's bearish, of course.
It's gonna be super
Okay.
bearish. If we do this and then we fall, and most likely targeting the first level here, then you will have 44.60. Oh, 44.64. You crack this, you're heading here.
Would
Okay.
you think, based on Korea banking news, we should be opening up lower? And if the only way
Wow.
we're going up is if we find a support, and that would be
Okay.
very strong.
The news sound bearish, but the reaction will be bullish. Because when you think about it, if they can't short, what do you have to do?
They have to buy.
Buy, go
But-
long. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect other markets, other Asian markets and whatnot, or
Yeah, well, do they follow? Do the masses follow? Do do they follow? Does China? Does others follow?
If I was in Korea, I'd be using my money in another market.
Well,
In that case,
They follow suit.
they might have to protect themselves somehow. So,
okay.
and there was a lot of, I mentioned something about the hacks that's happening. I don't know if you guys logged into your bank apps, but there's some weird shit happening. There's some weird stuff going on. I mean, I really don't know the details, but looking at it, deposits are delayed. For a lot of people, if deposits are delayed, you might not trigger a lot of buying. How long is this going to last? I don't know. What if a lot deposits are delayed for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
What happens to the consumer spending?
I think you'd have a sell-off because people want their money.
Well, you might have that, but how's the next CPI inflation number going to look like for the month of November?
Oh shit. Terrible.
Well, it would look good because people didn't buy shit.
Oh, I guess you're right.
So there's a complexity that I haven't really thought about, sat down to make my conclusion, if that makes sense, based on the facts that we know. I don't know. It's just very complex at the moment. And then the South Korea or North Korea, whatever one came out and short selling just added another twist in my head, if that makes sense. Like, okay, why are you, if everything's good, why are you stopping short selling? Short selling brings market to the balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you expecting something to be so bad that you can't afford that, or I don't know. Usually this never led longer term to the good.
I guess my mentality was maybe they thought they were going to be affected by other countries trying to short their stock and hurt their economy, or something along those lines.
I think you'll have. I mean, I think
Like
we're in a
China or
currency
something.
war now, right? I mean, we've been in currency wars. I just can't figure it out. It's fairly complex to make a like thesis where I have an edge on thinking at the moment. I don't. I just think this is gonna get worse than it's gonna get better, in my opinion. And if the banks, there's a bank that collapsed on Friday. I don't know if you guys saw it. I posted it. I think you'll have more banks potentially coming to an end, right? And I don't think regional banks are out of the gutter yet.
Yeah, I think what was it, Bank America and Chase not holding up deposit stuff that was posted.
Well, remember we had a lot of issues with deposits, and then they said deposits were great. So when a bank offers higher CD rates, why do they offer that?
They want you to put more money in it.
Yep.
They want your cash.
Yep.
And if there's a problem with liquidity,
Mm-hmm.
and just look at the Treasury general account, we've been spending money like we added $1 trillion in debt since the last debt ceiling.
If the Fed is not issuing additional bonds, wasn't it that about 1/10 of the amount they're going to issue now?
Exactly.
So then they're not generating cash. So now it's putting a squeeze on cash flow.
Exactly.
So now it's repercussion is back to the banks.
Exactly. And either big banks got it resolved, and looking at, let's say, Bank of America, the HTM portfolio, it does not look like they have it resolved. Unless we just bailed them out again. Don't take that out, right? We've done it a lot. We just bail out everyone but the people that give them the cash. So
Thank you.
take it from your left pocket and you give it to the people in suits. That's how the economy works right now. And eventually people will wake up and see that all their taxes are going to contractors and government and pharmaceutical and bankers. And hopefully they will do something about it. Till then, you guys just have to live, see another day. Okay. All right. Well, I will probably be on around 9. I'll put up an announcement. We'll finish the NQ. We have to get going towards a birthday party. It's 20 minutes. It starts at 12:30. I'm not even dressed.
Thanks a lot, Shorty.
Thanks, Shorty.
Hopefully you guys picked up about the TPO counts and when to use it. I'll post a PowerPoint there. It covers, obviously, you
Very
guys saw
helpful.
the
Cool.
trend days and how you can, reiterate some of the stuff. Understanding these days, it wouldn't be bad homework for most of you to look at these definitions, go on the TPOs and try to identify normal variation, normal trend day. Remember, to identify some of these, you're going to have to identify the initial balance. So for a lot of you guys, if you don't have it, there's a cool indicator I found. It's called initial balance right here. And it highlights it. Also, the TPO charts, you see the little black line?
Yeah.
That's your initial balance.
Oh, that's on the chart. I missed that on mine. I didn't see it. Okay.
So if you click on this, right, if you double click on it, there's initial balance range. You see this?
Oh, cool.
Got it. Okay.
Make sure it's set to 2, because if you set it to 3, which letter is it going to pick up?
E.
Oh,
Yeah.
just okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want the C. We just want the A and Bs.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
and then this little tool or whatever code has, if you want to know IBH2. So this guy, whoever coded it, he's
That's nice.
probably aware of some stuff that we are aware of as well.
Mm.
When identifying trend ranges and stuff like that, you really need to know your initial balances, right?
Mhm.
Right, and you need to know where's the 2x, right? Where's 1x? And if you guys look here, for instance, you know, the 2x was here, right? And if you look, did we even come close? Well, we went above the range, right? But we didn't really, well, let's make sure. And you have to change this period for you guys. I don't know. It
Time.
seems like make sure you change this to 8:30 to 9:30 instead of 9:30 to 10:30. It's our back.
Okay.
Could you show that which one you're using again?
Yeah, so if you go here, you type in initial balance. Well, if you can spell the balance, that'd be great.
Okay.
It's the Noop.
Okay,
Gotcha.
thanks.
Thanks.
And you guys can grab that. And it gives you, it's actually pretty cool in the morning when you see it highlight. If you take literally everything off and you hide, like you just put, let's say
Nope.
TPOs, and
Got it.
if you put the initial balance, it gives you a nice little visual, right? So you can know where's the balance immediately, where's the 2x of the balance, right? You see here, this is your balance. This would have been 2x. So it tells you, right? We went above the range, but we failed to establish above the range. And then if you go back to the notes, well, let's look. Ranges extension occurred during the first half day. Balance is not as wide as it is normal days. Balance to imbalance, then adjusted balance. Okay, normal days. If so, they are brief and quickly reverse inside the IB. Wide initial balance, then balance is not broken throughout the day. Wider balance, blah, blah, blah. Short term and control. Okay, well, what happened here? Which one is it? What type of day is this?
Range.
Too large?
Ones.
Let's just look at it here. So if you just have a little checklist right next to it, I would say if you turn on the TPO, where's your initial balance?
Bottom.
The
There.
POC at the bottom.
Yeah, the A and B, I would say they covered 85% of the range, did they not?
Yep.
Right? A and
Right.
B have 85% of the range covered.
Yep.
I think I might have something off on these timings. I think the time changed. Didn't time change?
It did, but I think it would pick up that in the software, but maybe not. I don't know.
Don't bet on it.
In the past, yeah. Curious.
Because this
Oh
is the
yeah, it
initial
shows
balance.
initial balance. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's right? It's good. So you see that this is the initial balance right here, right? So if I hide this, I would say this is 85% of the day. If this is our right here, and it goes to here, that's 26 points, right?
From 4383.
And then from here to here, that's 7 points. So
Yep.
it's even more, right? So that immediately tells you it's a normal trend day, right? And then normal days, right?
Normal day.
Yep. In a normal day, we know that you can short the tops. You exit is where? At the
POC?
50%,
Oh,
right? If it's skewed, right? In this case, it's skewed. We lost it. I would use 50% to be the level to exit.
Is that 4368, the 50%?
No, 43.75. And look where they bounced. They came here.
Okay, yeah. At the mid, yeah.
So your 50% becomes important. And guess where else that's mentioned?
In the PowerPoint.
how can you short the top when you don't know what the top's necessarily going to be?
V shape, yeah. Volume profile.
Funny, right? So that becomes very important, right? And then if you keep going, and let's say you want to identify, let me, let's go. So then let's say a normal variation day, right? You probably would not have any normal variations in what we've had recently, just because we did some funny stuff. But I would take a look at some of these days, I don't need a lot of time to figure it out, but like, what is this? What is this here? So if this is my initial balance right here, right?
That would normally
Okay,
be an
normal as
extended
well.
normal.
Oh, extended normal?
Yeah,
Looks like
I mean, they broke above it and, you know, they closed above it, above this one. So
Mhm,
that's good.
mhm.
If you have a day, so if you think about it, I'm just gonna draw a
So
box.
it's a
If you,
normal extended day. Is that what it is?
yeah, this is an extended, but not,
Okay.
yeah. And if you look at, for instance, this one, if you have an extension that goes up and then you have an extension that goes down, what type of day is that?
Oh shit! I did on the notes.
Neutral day.
Definitely neutral day.
Yeah.
In a
Neutral,
neutral day, it tells you, hey, we're gonna go up, but man, we're not so sure. They fall back inside, they go
Yeah.
test the opposite, they fall inside, and they close in between. Neutral days are really difficult to trade,
They're seeking value.
and they trap people a lot.
Short terms are in control.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the influence of long-term traders wasn't established. If it was, we wouldn't go up and
That's
below.
right. We wouldn't go back in. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So when I put stuff like this, it's not necessarily for you to remember this. It's more about, can you, in my sleep, I could visualize every one of these days and what it would look like on
Right.
volume and what it would look like on TPO.
Shorty, please, can you tell me the name of that again? The one we just said?
It's a neutral day.
Neutral day. Thank you.
Yeah. And here's,
Shorty, in what would be like a normal day, if we pop our head above and we fail,
mhm,
then long term didn't really come into play.
that's
Right.
correct.
That was the market makers pushing it over to try to get them in,
Yep.
right?
Or think about inventory from locals inventory perspective. Why would that happen with the locals? Why would the locals want that?
Because they
If
thought they were, because
if
they,
Mr. Bean, I'll give you exactly that scenario. Mr. Bean comes to me and is like, "Hey, Shorty, I want to sell 1,000 contracts at 400," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy it." Well, I, as a local, have to do what now?
sell it
Sell it for
higher,
more.
I have to sell higher. So what do you think I'm gonna do?
sell it at 405.
I'm gonna look to see if I can drag it and break that previous level of support, right,
Yeah.
or resistance. So somebody hops it, and then my hands are out, right?
Yep.
My hands
To
are
trigger the
clean.
algos, basically.
Exactly. So it's all about inventory and liquidity for them, for the locals, right? They have to be in portfolio management world. They have to be delta neutral.
But if
Like
nobody buys it, then
well, then they're in trouble, right? And then if more excessive sellers, if more Mr. Beans come in with the short, long-term sellers come in, and Bean has to keep buying, Bean is now, I would be too long as a local. Well, shit, now I'm in trouble. When they get too long or too short, that's when the moves happened. I don't care about your EMAs now. That shit really plays a role in any of it. It's a historical level that doesn't mean shit for them.
Yeah.
What
Right?
Jake
So
said.
yeah,
getting there. We're getting there.
it's a process, and I would say, for all of you guys, I think it'd be a really good exercise to do that. Would it take me a long time to find these for you guys and post it in a PowerPoint? Take me 5 minutes. But what do I get out? What do you guys get out of it if I do all of it?
Nothing.
You guys are just going to look at this PowerPoint, cruise through it, and not going to go on a chart.
Yeah.
My goal is to get you to the chart so you can go find this. Normal trend day goes up to 2x balance, but doesn't go above it. If it goes above it, then most likely it's a trend day. Another trend day characteristics would be that when you look at the letters, that they're not framing down in between, right? When you have an A and B, that, the B did not go below the A, that the C did not go below the B, but the C went up above the B. And you see here, it's happening, right?
Making
We're
higher
having
highs.
making higher highs between the periods, just like you want to see. If I remove this and we go on 5-minute candles, okay, how many lower highs do you guys see here and lower lows being put in? I mean, it's just dragging
Yeah.
along, and in the process of dragging, you involve people that believe in bull flags.
Mm-hmm.
And you give them that. You give them the
trickle
retest, you
and
break
keep
them and
going
you
higher.
break them until everybody becomes too long. And then the market's like, okay,
Yep.
we need to find inventory somewhere else. And if the inventory is high for selling, these people are not going to try to buy. They're going to let the market go.
Drop.
Then they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
So always think about, there's a couple of perspectives that you have to think about. There's you, there's the locals and their inventories, and then you have the long-term buyers and sellers that are also in the market. A lot of people don't want to understand it, but if you don't understand how the market works, you're going to have a hard time figuring out why, a lot of people asked me 3 times to explain this when I went long. Did they not? Did you guys not ask me how many times? Why'd you go long here? Well, it made sense, right? A lot of inventory was sitting here. So when they exit their inventory, exit their shorts, right? They were buying to cover here, right? And then, the market became too short, right? So naturally it just has to go higher, right? Because the inventory imbalances. And of course, if I can see that and spot that imbalance, and I see that it's a major POC like it was here, I mean, the calls that we had went from $3.30 all the way to 18, guys. You had to risk $300 to, even if you gave it a risk of 50%, we actually were never down more than $38. I went back and checked. The drawdown was $38, 10%. On a swing that had, I think, 10 days long. So will I take opportunities? Will I look for opportunities? Yeah, I think we'll probably start looking at it more because now we've gotten some volatility, right, lately, where some stocks might be at the levels, right? I missed again. I did miss this again. I'm really upset at myself. I wanted to buy it, but the damn earnings stopped me, and I didn't want to gamble. I was going to buy like $25,000 worth. I didn't want to gamble that where it's got overnight cut in half. I lose 12 grand. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll come back. So they didn't bring it back to 120. As soon as they bring this back in between here, I'm going to be a buyer. Just FYI. I've been watching this. I think I've been watching this for over a year now. I think I have the date when we first started watching this, but yeah, so you see where they rejected, just a surprise, right? They went below the POC and look where they stopped. So now I want them to fall behind, hold this node, and I'll look to add. Fortunately, not in it. But there's a lot of decent setups like NVIDIA here. Of course, they're going to play with the guys. They bounced off the value area high. They trapped. I think they're going to pop much higher. I think they're going to proceed to push this higher now and trap. And it reminds me, CK, do you remember this stock? We went, we shorted, we caught it, but then I got played, I think about $8,000 on this for a loss. And then when I should have re-entered, I was too scared to enter, right? Which is normal. And I lost this trade, but it was a really, really good trade. The idea was good, right? And I think it's forming a same setup on the video right now. They're going to run it 2 more times before a dump. And this company here, I think I'm still going to look for orders around 120, 160 for a portfolio. So somewhere around here, 140 would be good. If they bring it back, I'll be a buyer there. Same concept, guys. And the key in terms of volume, when you guys are looking, like if you guys are looking at this, I think we're aware of all of these levels on SPY as well. I think we nailed them. And it wasn't that difficult, right? We talked about this being 411, 410, a huge zone that they can bounce. If you guys remember, 445 was our bearish thesis on it. So now if you look at it, man, they got to crack this. They got to go above this node. Should you go long here as soon as they crack this? That's a suicide. I mean, you're setting up for a disaster. Your reward is better to short here than it is to go long. If you want to go long, well, let them do this, let them take this, let them come back. Then we have a reason to go long. Right now, price discovery says not yet.
look at the yearly profile of